Afghanistan in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish
I'm
maybe.
looking to meet her.
Yeah, he too. He'll be there.
Yes.
Hi, so welcome everybody. I believe we're live. Welcome to this discussion. My name is Amie Ferris-Rotman. I'm foreign policies correspondent here in Moscow. I'm also the founder and director of Sahar Speaks. It's a program for Afghan female journalists. We're about 2 years old, and we offer training, mentoring, and publishing opportunities for Afghan female journalists who are in Afghanistan, who will be published in a global audience. And we're joined by Mariam Alimi here, who is a wonderful Afghan female journalist, photojournalist based in Kabul. So welcome, Mariam.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Great. So I just wanted to say that a couple of the people were meant to join us for this discussion, but they're having some technical difficulties and will hopefully join us later on. Obviously, the internet in Afghanistan is a mystery to most of us, so I'm delighted that Mariam has made it, but hopefully they will join us later. Sahar, Fetrat, and Massoud Hossaini, who's actually one of the subjects of the film. But if I could just begin, I mean, first of all, for those who've seen Frame by Frame or are about to see Frame by Frame, I mean, it's about 4 Afghan photojournalists, specifically focusing on the lives of photojournalism in Afghanistan, a country where the Taliban had banned photography, a country where taking a photo was considered an actual crime. And I would just like to ask you, Mariam, because in the film we see one of the main subjects, Farzana Wahidi, who's an Afghan female journalist. She is often told in her work, when she's going around Afghanistan taking photos, and she takes photos of women, and she's told by Afghan men not to take the photos. So, I mean, this struck me as something extremely familiar as someone who's lived in Afghanistan, but also struck me as something which must feature a lot in your life. And so does that happen to you when you're taking photographs?
Thank you very much. Before I start this, so I would like to say hello and regards to all audience who are seeing me there. And regarding to the question that you had, yeah, so I also saw the movie Frame by Frame, and especially the time when Farzana was in a hospital and born ward hospital in Iraq, and she was kind of trying to get a permission to go in and take photos, and at the end she was not able to do that, and she couldn't. But at the end she kind of gets really disappointed, and even she cried and get out from there. So at that time when I was there, I felt myself also in that placement, and because of so many times it happened to me, and I went to cover a subject, and I went to do some to make a story about some issues which was a serious issue, but they banned me, and they said that no, you're not allowed, because there's so many things actually. Somehow they're not letting us to do that.
Men told you not to take the photos?
Mostly, yeah. Mostly men are the obstacles. Men are the people who are stopping us for doing that, and sometimes some women also there that they are not letting us to do our job. And some of the women that we relatedly working with them, and they themselves even hide themselves, and they are saying that please do not take my picture because my husband is not letting me, or if I somehow my picture will come to the media, or somehow you will get to see it, or my son is like not like it, me to be in the picture, or this is such a kind of excuses that we are always facing in here, and as a having this job and working in this field, which is not a really a easy job for us to do.
Would you say that is the biggest challenge you face as being an independent photojournalist in Afghanistan today, as a female photojournalist?
Yes, this is one of the biggest actually. Somehow we solved this from beginning up to now, because now it has been more than 10 years that people like me, like Farzana Wahidi, that they're coming in front of people with a big camera, and we are starting kind of arguing with people and somehow trying to convince them and make them understand that what does photography exactly mean and why we are doing it and what a picture can say and what a picture can explain. So these are the kind of things that we try to manage with people. So a little bit, I can say from 100%, maybe at least 5%, we would be able to change the mind of the people so far. But still 95%, we are still facing this problem. Not, as I mentioned before, not only men. Most of the time we are facing with women. Very educated women also, they are coming in from, when they coming in front of camera and they are saying, no, please stop. And I don't like, or I don't want, and then I don't have permission from my family and this and that. So there are so many excuses that they are telling us.
But 95% of the country not being exposed or aware of how photography can play an important role in your society. I mean, that's
exactly.
a huge number.
Yeah.
Do you, I mean, with the security situation as it is going forward, do you think that 95% can change, can become less, that more people will appreciate photography going forward?
Well, this is something that we are trying. We are a small number of people, especially a small number of female, that we are working in this field. But the thing is that from the time, especially I myself, that I was committed with my job, and even I knew it, that it is a very challenging job and it is really a difficult job in a context of Afghanistan to do it. But still, I try to manage it somehow. I try to work, and even if it is, I get tougher than before, because I have to change the way that I start to change it. I start with the younger girls, to go to their school and to talk with them and to make them able that what a picture means. So those are the people actually that we can share our experience. That me as a girl going in front, standing in front of them and telling them that what I am doing, how much it is important with their life, with everything that they are doing, what they are doing in their life, in their family, and their society, and a history of our country. So with everything. So when we are explaining, and we has a kind of power going and stand there in front of them, it gives them a courage. It encourages them and give them a more inspiration for that to change themselves, to change their mind, and to change the way that they are, like their family are pushing them. So they can tomorrow, the same like when I firstly started, my family was not happy with it, and they said that no, Mariam, how you can go with with camera and taking picture? What is this actually? So the same thing which I did with my family, and I made them understand about photography and about how much value it has. So day by day, kind of now at the moment, I can say that I could change the whole family. So the same thing is happening with each girl in this country.
How did you convince your family that it was okay for you to take photography and to do photography as a profession? How did you convince them?
Well, it was not easy. It was not easy. It took me time to convince them, because at the beginning they were not happy with me to traveling around Afghanistan and to go and to working on different stories. This was the first thing actually that I make them to understand that me as a Afghan woman, and me as an Afghan girl who's living in here, who understanding the language, who understanding the culture and everything. So when I am not able to work, so how it is possible for someone to come and to from outside and to work with all these difficulty that we have in this country. So at the beginning, even I can say that at the very beginning, I was not able to stand in front of my father and to let them know that I'm going to another province to cover a story or to make a documentary about something. Then I get the help of a foreign woman that she was working with me at that time, and she requests me that if it is okay, I can go to your family and I can just talk with them. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. No, do you think, I mean, the film made it very clear that the situation for Afghan journalists, especially for female journalists, but all Afghan journalists, is becoming worse. There are more attacks on journalists actually taking place than there were 5 years ago. And the actual act of being, the actual profession of being a journalist is constantly under threat for various reasons, from the Taliban, but also to do with journalists uncovering corruption, also to do with the security situation in general. What do you think Afghan journalists can now do in order to make sure that going forward over the next few years, that safety and that situation tries to stay safe? What is the community doing?
Well, the security situation is kind of day by day getting very tough for all the journalists that who are working, especially for female journalists. So I can see recently I can read the reports that the number which was like last year, now the number is decrease instead of increase. So it is kind of happening, and because families somehow not trust girls to go out because of the security, and they are afraid of this, that somebody is like me when I'm working alone and I'm going alone if I come like late at the evening back home. So now they had a system or recently that people are getting, I don't know, they are putting acid on the face of the girls. So this is a kind of thing. Even I myself sometimes really afraid of this, and really get to get home like very before it gets dark. Try to come back home and to kind of prevent myself from all these situations. It's not easy, but actually this is the fact that since 10 years that I am working, I try to change something. So again, after this also I'm continuing my job. I'm following it. Well, if something will happen tomorrow, this is something is not controllable for me.
And so we've just received some questions for you, Mariam, from the listeners out there, and from the listeners and watchers. And yeah, the great question. Who or what, but I bet in your case it's who are your favorite subjects to photograph? Who do you like photographing?
Yeah, I much more like to actually Afghanistan has so many negative sides that the world somehow, especially war, is the something which is really made it very negative. But I like to portray about the strong women like myself, that they still they stand up and still they are working hard and still they are trying for some change. So this is a kind of a great subject which I really love to still follow it.
The positive strength of Afghan women.
Yes, exactly.
And what was why did you become a journalist? What first sparked your interest in photojournalism, in a profession that's so difficult for women in Afghanistan?
Well, this question all the time, it was very difficult for me somehow to answer, and somehow it is easy because I had this passionate with myself from very child. That whenever I see it in movie or in TV that a woman stand up and is speaking with a mic and talking in front of everybody, so I always like that. But when the time kind of I grow up and I get the time has passed, so I start the job and I took camera, which was at the beginning I had a small compact cameras which I was took photo with. Then I kind of study with myself and I find out that what exactly really I want. So this was finally I found out that I'm interested in photography. And why I was interesting because I always like to be in a challenging situation, and I found photography was very challenging in Afghanistan.
And do you believe, I mean, like we touched on it earlier slightly, but about press freedom. I mean, I know that when I lived in Afghanistan now 6-7 years ago, the press was extremely free. I mean, it was more free in a way than it is in my own country, in England. And do you think the Afghan press is still very free? And if it's not very free, what can be done to make it better and safer?
Well, yeah, this is something that this is one of the positive things I can say, that the Afghan press was free. And just nowadays, due to some political changes and some newcomers and new faces which is coming and in society, in the politician side especially. So this is a little bit, we are afraid of this freedom of speech, that maybe somehow it go under pressure, and it will kind of get really inspired by those people, and then they maybe influence more and people to stop them for talking and sharing their own minds and sharing their experience. So this is a kind of fear that we are.
It's interesting what you said about the positive strength of Afghan women and the need to show that, and that you enjoy doing that. And in the program Sahar Speaks, several of the participants wanted to show that other side of Afghan, you know, because I feel, and this was raised in the film as well, frame by frame, that the West has this idea, or the world has this idea, that Afghan women are all wearing burqas, that they're, you know, they are all suffering, they're all illiterate, and so it's wonderful to hear from you that you are on a mission essentially to show the world the strength of Afghan women. Are you also, do you want to show Afghan women's achievements in a way that we would recognize achievements to do with winning you know, sport titles or becoming the first doctor? Or are you also interested in achievements on a more local level, like the first girl maybe to go to school in her family? Or could you talk a little bit about the subjects and the type of women that you're interested in?
Well, as I mentioned, so I'm interested in all these positive side of this story about women to share, and also about these changes about the girls going to school. Somehow I can say that recently, due to bad security, many schools was stopped in many provinces and many places. Still, girls are not able to go to school. But still, I can see that in Kabul, when I'm traveling to provinces, and I see that girls a little bit kind of, they change their mind, and they kind of arguing for their future, and they are saying their family, and they say that, look, I have to go to school, I have to make my future. This is something, is the only way that I can build myself, and I build my country, and I can help my country. So this is a kind of really a good things which really I inspired by all these kind of things which when I'm seeing it.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and I also believe you run your own photography program for young girls. Yeah, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm working with those girls that they never touched the camera, they never took a photo. I'm going like to provinces, especially in Bamiyan. I have been, and this also next week, hopefully, I will go to Bamiyan again and to do a photography. So far, at least 60 girl I gave a training for 60, them about photography. Amazing. So not 60, yes, 60. Not only about the photography, what is photography, why it is important, why. Also, I changed them in a way about the behaving of with people, because to change it, when I'm as a photographer, don't know how to behave with people, because of course when I'm saying more of my people are illiterate and they are not able to read and write, so they don't understand many other things as well. So me as an educated girl, and they as educated people, so we have to understand, like, to work with them very smoothly, very softly, very patiently, to talk with them and until to make them understand, and to not only to I'm not only working to change those 13 girls who would be in my class, to change their mind. Through them, I'm trying to change the 13 others, or 20 or 100 other people that they are every day in touch with them, and they are talking in school with their teacher, with the other students. So to talk with them also about it, and to share all the experience that they're getting through the 1 week that I'm giving in the training.
Well, that brings us to another question we've actually just received, which is about the future of journalism. You're training young girls to go out and become photographers in the future, and they're fighting for their future in a way that has perhaps not happened before. We have someone who's just asked, who is supporting the future of journalism in Afghanistan? I mean, I certainly think that, unfortunately, unlike the situation 5-10 years ago, the donor support has definitely decreased in Afghanistan, and I think this is a huge shame. There's been enormous donor fatigue in recent years because of growing tiredness of the general international community with Afghanistan, with the, as the war gets longer and more protracted. I think journalism needs to be protected by, I personally think it needs to be protected by the Afghan government. It also needs to be protected by NGOs. It also needs to be protected and ensured by international players, international governments, who are the ones who set up, whose funding set up many of the journalism to begin with. What do you think, Mariam?
Yeah, exactly. All these options that you mentioned, so it has to be protected through the government, through the organizations, and through the international community. Especially, I'm looking like a great project, or like great organization that we just got the training last year in March about Sahar Speaks. So that was a kind of great sample of it, which can bring more women in the picture, more women in front of the camera, and let them more courage, and they can use their talent. Actually, we have a lot of girls that they are really talented, that they are educated, but they just need opportunity to raise the up, to raise their voice, and to go ahead with it. So this is the kind of three option. I can say that these are the three characters that they need to help the future of the journalism in Afghanistan.
I think you've really hit something there. Yeah, you've got the right message, which is a message I've been trying to say for ages, which is women, women, women. There needs to be more Afghan female journalists, and I don't know if our viewers know the true extent of how difficult it is for Afghan female journalists to operate in Afghanistan, but also how necessary they are, because a lot of men and women in Afghanistan cannot speak to each other or cannot interact with each other, and so that's why you need Afghan female journalists to tell the women's stories. Women are 50% of the story, after all. And you also hit a very a good point there about opportunity, and that's something I noticed in Afghanistan is there are so many Afghan women wanting to tell stories, so many women who want to even become journalists, and they just need that extra push. They need the encouragement.
Exactly.
Yeah. In a society where they've not been given much encouragement. So I think, I mean, yeah, my message to the world would be, please support Afghan journalism, especially Afghan women in journalism, because the story you will get out of it will be much richer, much more nuanced, and you'll also be contributing to the country actually getting better. So, yeah, what can you tell us more about? I mean, going on from that, what you've seen in the last, you've been a photojournalist for a decade. I mean, you're one of the first ones since the fall of the Taliban. Female journalists, you've seen it all. What tips? I mean, what advice would you give to aspiring new photojournalists, women all over the world, especially in countries where the situation is more difficult for women?
Well, actually the word which I want to say, I don't know if I can really express it, and I can tell it in English in a right way or no.
Yeah, I'm sure you can.
But I will just try to somehow tell them that they have to kind of be committed firstly with themselves, that they really want to be part of change. Like I try to be part of change, like Farzana did try to be part of change since the decade that we are working in this field. So the same thing is I'm giving my message to my own country girls, that they have to kind of decide it. If they really want to do something, they have to push it. They have to work hard on it, and they have to be in touch with people and to get. And also I'm giving the message for all the other countries that they are passing the same situation or tougher situation like my country, that everything is possible. Nothing is impossible. When we are just trying, we just get ourselves to out of our door. Actually, this is something which I did. If I wanted to decide, just sit at home and the back of the walls, so I could never brought any change. But I pushed myself, and I read my soul, and I thought that really my soul is like pushing me that go out, you can do it. And this is what I am today. I can say strongly that yes, as a strong woman today, I can stand in front of a man, and if a man trying to stopping me, I'm trying to convincing him. So this is a way that we have to bring a change.
Absolutely, and I love the way that you want to include your own successes, but also your own encouragement of fellow female journalists as part of the conversation, which I think is
Yes.
is what this is all about. Is it's not simply going out and taking photographs or teaching others. It's also about constantly being part of the conversation, constantly reminding everyone that it's an organic process and it's always moving.
Yes.
But so Mariam, Alimi, it's been fantastic to have this exclusive interview with you today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up now, but just to everyone out there, thanks for listening, and please support Afghan journalists going forward, especially Afghan female journalists. Mariam has got a fantastic portfolio and is one of just a few who are working very hard. So thank you so much, Mariam. It was great to hear your experiences.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time, and also thanks audience for being patient with me.